Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson Football Channel. Today, it's Chelsea news. The season is over, which means Chelsea news will be as regular as I couldn't possibly make it, which is me trying to basically say that I know I often say daily videos and sometimes I miss that boat a little bit, but there is so much to talk about here. Yesterday we talked about Todd Boehly's bid to take over Chelsea has been approved by the Premier League. It's pretty much completed. We have a new owner. Chelsea are not going out of business with potentially £200 million to spend this summer. Now with 200 million, you got to buy people, and there are people we're linked with. Today we're going to talk Jules Koundé. We're going to talk Vardiol. We're going to hopefully not get wet. It looks as though there's a thunderstorm coming, but we're going to see if we can finish this video here. If not, we're going to bugger off upstairs. We're also going to talk Christopher Nkunku, Raheem Sterling. That's an interesting one. We're going to discuss that. And the rain's getting heavier. And Reece James is wanted by Manchester City as they see him as a long-term successor to Kyle Walker. So we're going to put the stamp down, the gauntlet, the knife, the machete, everything. Chop it, cut it, do whatever we need to do because that cannot happen in any stretch of the imagination. Imagine Reece James at Man City. Erling Haaland, oh God, it's just a disaster. If you're not yet subscribed to GBFC, now is the time to do so. Turn on bell notifications, and whilst you're there, if you can hit the like button on today's video, then I will be absolutely delighted. But before we get electrocuted, because I think there's going to be some lightning with this rain, I'm going to quickly scoot upstairs. So I think first of all, we're going to start off by talking about one of the big jobs that Todd Boehly has to do now that he's taken over at Chelsea, and that is to agree new contracts, deserved new contracts for both Mason Mount and Reece James. You could argue Chelsea's two most important players in the squad. Mason Mount, player of the season again. Reece James on a totally different level in a position where, at least in English football, we've got so many examples of top quality right backs. The reason Chelsea need to lock these two down on serious deals is because the teams like Manchester City, who are reportedly interested in Reece James, seeing him as a long-term successor of Kyle Walker. Chelsea can never, ever allow ourselves to get into a position where the juggernaut that is Manchester City, as much as I don't like them, we've got to respect what they're doing. 4 Premier League titles in 5 years. For players of the highest level, Erling Haaland's already signed for them. Reece James, unless he gets that kind of deal at Chelsea, even though he's a Chelsea lad, teams like Manchester City and pretty much having that guarantee to be competing to win the biggest honours every season. Yeah, they're serial Champions League bottlers, but Mason Mount and Reece James deserve to be two of Chelsea's highest paid players. Yes, when they're still young, there is always that tentative approach that clubs need to do where if you give players that are as young as Mason Mount, Reece James, you look at Kylian Mbappe has just signed a new bonkers contract at PSG. The problem with that is when you give someone money that is of the highest value comparatively to teammates, what that does is eventually as a player, you know that you're not going to make less money if you move, but you kind of get a bit tired because you know that the ceiling of what you're doing at your club you're at now, you've kind of already hit it. So with the new deals for Mason Mount and Reece James, yes, Chelsea are going to offer them, but my two penneth, as my grandma used to say on that, would be that as much as they do deserve huge pay rises, we've got to make sure that there is still something to achieve personally for these guys with their deals at Chelsea. And that is going to come from locking them down so we don't lose them for a start, but also all of the other investments we make and the support for the manager, whatever it may be. Chelsea's direction is the long-term key to keeping Mason Mount happy, Reece James happy. And yes, it will require much increased wages, but Chelsea need to make sure that as this club continue to grow under new ownership, we do that with these guys at the forefront of every plan we make. They are both so good, and I just do not want City to even knock on the door for Reece James, because unless Chelsea are competing, you could never look at a player of Reece James's quality and think, well, he might just say yes. I don't think he would, but he might just say yes. You never know. We move into the next story of the day. Let's talk a little bit about Raheem Sterling. Now, I watched the game. I had 3 matches on my TV. I had the Liverpool game, the City game, and of course the Chelsea game against Watford on Sunday. Raheem Sterling, he is a player who, when you look at that City squad, Pep Guardiola doesn't use him every single week, but Raheem Sterling has been playing at the highest level in the Premier League for so long. We saw how brilliant he was at Liverpool. City saw this, snapped him up from Liverpool before Liverpool started to build the juggernaut they have now. And Raheem Sterling, despite not often playing as much as he would like, he's such a direct player with so much great experience. And with that natural width, be it on the right side or cutting in on the left, you look at all of the discussions about Chelsea wingers, about Chelsea attackers, and all of the things that we want is technically what Raheem Sterling has been providing consistently for years. So when I see Chelsea being linked with Raheem Sterling, I'm happy about this because not only is it taking a great player off of one of our biggest rivals, one thing, yeah, City would probably just go and replace him with someone even better anyway. But Chelsea's issue is that we're bringing in quality players from the Bundesliga, quality players from Eredivisie, Hakim Ziyech. You've got Christian Pulisic in there as well, who's a bit smaller, and you don't know if he's going to be able to grow into the Premier League in a physical sense. But Raheem Sterling has always been there. There's been talks of diving. There's been talks of not being strong enough, but his output levels have always been so consistently good. And I think this summer, even for their own individual sakes, let alone whether Tuchel wants them or Chelsea want to keep them or sell them or not, I think there's definitely going to be one of a Pulisic, Werner, Ziyech, Hudson-Odoi, whoever it may be. There's going to be some players leaving. And I don't think, considering there's been a lack of goals this season, I don't think Tuchel or Chelsea will be actually in a position to be like, well, yeah, we've got too many, and if they're not happy, get rid of them and not bring in a replacement. Raheem Sterling's being linked. It's still early. It's still tentative talks, and it moves us again into Christopher Nkunku, who is in a similar position regarding Chelsea's interest right now. Because Nkunku, for me, I said it a few weeks ago, I think it does have and hold that similar element of risk that we didn't think we were getting with Werner, but we ended up getting with Timo Werner, which was we expected a lot more, didn't get it, based off of the quality output that we saw of him at Leipzig. With Christopher Nkunku, it's very similar. Now, depending on Raheem Sterling's price, I want to know what you guys have to say about this in the comments below. Would you go for a younger Christopher Nkunku or Raheem Sterling? I don't think there is any plausible way that Chelsea get both of these two players this summer, because I think that goes against the whole script that we're pretty aware of where the priorities are for Chelsea signings. But let me know your thoughts on these two in the comments down below. Raheem Sterling, I don't think I turn my nose up at it. I think it could be an excellent signing. But your thoughts in the comments are always welcome. We move into the longest going transfer saga story ever. Jules Koundé to Chelsea. It is still being so heavily reported that Jules Koundé will be a Chelsea player. And I'll be honest with you, I think within a month, he will be a Chelsea player. I think he'll probably be Todd Boehly's first signing. I think Todd Boehly, when we think about how we're going to want to do business, I think he will want to get big names through the door as quickly as possible. I think he will want to try and look through history at how Chelsea have built successful seasons. The way that Chelsea have been successful with transfer business and then absolutely flipping that straight into winning titles is when we get the business done early. I said earlier, there's going to be some lightning. There was just a huge clap of thunder. Not sure if you heard it. But this Jules Koundé deal, he wants to be a Chelsea player. He wants the Premier League move. There is talk that at 5'10", does this pose an issue for Chelsea? And I won't lie to you, it undoubtedly does. Chelsea get done many times with balls into the box, with corners. Rudiger, turning into a world-class centre-back in the last year and a half, has kind of helped to solve that. But with his height out of the team, Jules Koundé at 5'10", you just know that whoever Chelsea also go and buy in the defensive areas this summer is going to need to bring some natural height into this side so that we can allow Jules Koundé's quality on the ball and his positional awareness, yet still not being so tall, we're going to need a big boy in there, which is why Gvardiol is being heavily linked for Chelsea. I'm going to make a prediction. I think both Koundé and Gvardiol will be Chelsea players this summer. I think it makes sense for both of these two to come in. They're not going to be the most expensive, which does open money, doors, windows for the likes of a big money Declan Rice, huge statement signing that would delight the Chelsea fan base, or the majority of us, from Todd Boehly. But I think those two are certainly going to be coming through the door this summer. That's my prediction. Let me know the two centre-backs that you primarily want in the comments down below. Going to wrap up this video today. We've talked Nkunku, we've talked Sterling, we've talked Reece James and Mount contracts, and we've talked defenders, of course. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe to GBFC if you are new. Stay tuned on the channel because we are going to have lots more videos coming your way this week. Come on, you Blues.